Good evening, peoples, or good afternoon, or good morning, whenever you're watching this. BIGCED, industry cosign, back with my latest edition of My Friends Are Better Than Yours. For those tuning in for the first time, the purpose of this forum is that I like to acknowledge some great people that surround me. I couldn't find one today, so I got this guy right here. Now let me stop. I'm sorry, I started so.
Let's do it. Let's do it. Let's keep it real.
Um, I have a colleague, a friend, someone I've known literally for so many years that I can't even remember how we met, but he's doing good things. And as you already know, if you've seen this program before, I always speak to people who you may need to know or just people who are just great at what they do. And Rashuan just continues that tradition. I'm going to allow him to give a little brief intro, and then we'll get right into it. Rashuan, Mr. Hall.
First of all, privileged to be on with such esteemed hosts and previous guests who have been on. So quick hitter. Rashuan Hall. I am currently the VP of Streaming and Partnerships at Fuse Media. We are a diverse-owned media brand that hits linear, streaming, S-Vibe, fast. I can explain what all those things mean, but anywhere you want to watch content, the goal is for our brand to tell authentic stories from diverse cultures, and really reach as many people who look and talk like that. That's Black, Latino, LGBTQ plus, AAPI. We really want to tell all of those stories that far too often don't get heard. As said, so we've known each other quite some time. I won't date it. I was thinking about it earlier, but I'm not going to say how many years. But I tell people I'm a reformed music journalist. So started my career at Billboard, had spent some time at The Source, SOHH.com, MTV News, yada yada yada. I've been around the block a few times where I now talk to my millennial coworkers, and I'm like, oh yeah, I was at such and such release party where this thing happened, and they look at me like I'm a grandpa. But that is, in a very brief nutshell, who I am and what I do.
So you're seasoned. That's the term I like.
Fine wine or old whiskey, absolutely.
Well, thank you for joining me today. And what exactly is actually Fuse Media for those who may not know the exact company or what you do as a company as opposed to what you do specifically?
Yeah, absolutely. So Fuse Media, most people likely remember the Fuse TV network, which is still in existence. It is a cable TV network. If you think about what MTV and VH1 and BET were in the late 90s, early 2000s, music videos, video countdown shows, interviews with artists on location at festivals and behind the scenes, etc. So that is what the channel started as. We are still in existence. We pivoted quite a few times. The channel merged with two English language Latino channels, CTV and Nuvo, one of which was invested in by JLo. So the channel has evolved to where now we are telling those stories, like I said, of diverse audiences, mostly unscripted, but we also do some films and documentaries that we both make and acquire to tell those stories. So we still have those two. We still have two linear channels, Fuse and then FM, which is Fuse Music, which is still kind of to the DNA of the brand, kind of still music driven. But the Fuse channel is much more unscripted lifestyle content. And then I work on the streaming side, which is everything that is kind of non-linear, telling those same stories, but via streaming platforms.
Now, you've mentioned that you worked at some of these esteemed publications, but how did you actually get into the streaming aspect and with Fuse Media? Because I know, like you've mentioned, The Source, Billboard, those other, like, how did you get? Because I know in this industry that we're involved in, we transition, we adapt, we do different things. What led you into the position you have now? And before that, like, what? Actually, you know what? I'm gonna go back just a little bit further because I know that we all have different backgrounds and how we got into the industry. Because when we got into the industry was kind of still shaping itself from the hip hop urban perspective. And I know that when we first started doing our thing, we were either doing things we've never done before, or we were actual entrepreneurs that got jobs or whatever. So let's get a little background into how you got into the industry itself, and then how did that lead up to where you are today?
Yeah, so how I got in. I knew at God, in high school, I knew I wanted to do something in music. I have no typical musical talent, can't play an instrument, can't sing all that well, but I was obsessed with music. My first concert, to really date myself, was Budweiser Superfest, I think 86, out in the Meadowlands, back when they were called the Meadowlands, not MetLife Stadium. Yeah, and I was hooked on it. I used to read liner notes and album covers and magazines, and I was obsessed with it. And at the same time, around that time, as I got a little bit older, I was better at communicating via the written word. And I had teachers who were like, hey, like, you really should lean into writing. So I did all the nerdy things that young writers do. I wrote poetry and essays and all of that stuff, and did oral presentations and yada, yada, yada. But it wasn't until probably my freshman and sophomore year of high school, I met one of my first mentors, Marcus Reeves, who was at the Source, a brother who I still keep in contact with, who was like, you could put this writing and your love of music together. And I work at the Source, and I'd read all those magazines. For some reason, I never connected the dots. I'm like, there are people who look like me who write these. I would just kind of read the article and be absorbed by it. I never thought that somebody I knew who came from, as being a guy from Jersey, Marcus is from Jersey, that it was that tangible to me, because in New York City felt a world away from Newark. He kind of gave me that direction, and connected me to some people who were doing an indie which, again, to date myself, the first issue we did, upstart rappers named Biggie Smalls and Craig Mack. So that was our Big Mac promo, came in a Big Mac box. For those of you who remember that styrofoam Big Mac box, I had this with Biggie and Craig Mack on it. And yeah, getting into that space and seeing how a magazine was published, from laying it out to all that was initial. I was like, this is all the things, this is what I wanted to do. So from high school, I was like, all right, I have to be in New York City for school. So applied to a bunch of schools. NYU was like my only choice. I was fortunate enough to get in there and do the work, and just my second networking opportunity. So I met other people and was getting in the indie hip hop scene with Mos Def and Kweli and the Roots, and all that stuff was just taking off, and I was really obsessed with that genre of hip hop, to the point where I programmed concerts and all that stuff at NYU, and again, just, I don't know if you want to call it fate, whatever. I happened to be on the PATH train coming back to Jersey, bumped into Marcus. I'm a senior. I'm about to graduate. I don't know what I'm gonna do next. And he's like, "Oh, my homegirl Aaliyah King is getting ready to join me at Vibe. I'm at Vibe now. She's leaving the Source. She's leaving Billboard, where she's an editorial assistant." He connected me with Aaliyah. Aaliyah, also a Jersey girl. Yeah. The connections all came about. I got an interview at Billboard, got the job, and yeah, the rest is history. Just, again, that Jersey connection and just having people, how I started. After that, it was just, I always say Billboard's not grad school. So 4 years there, learning how to report and learning and making amazing contacts like yourself, like a number of great publicists. I know you had my man Tony Ferguson on here early. Tony and I came up together. I remember being on the set of the Amory One Thing video. So again, yeah, just making those contacts. I think one of the things that I learned early on was important, and I think the industry cosign did this very well. It's like connecting people and like, oh, we had this community, and while yes, we all wanted the same story for writers, and we all wanted to do things. When we all came together at any events or any album release parties, it was all love. It was all like, we knew we had to do this together, because we wanted to get in those offices. We wanted to get in those corner offices, those suites, etc.
That is true. So you started like right away, big time Billboard. So I
got very lucky. I attribute, and I don't give them enough credit, Aaliyah and Marcus. I fell into a good opportunity. I know that again, like I said, it was pure fate, and I don't even know. It just I don't want to say it wasn't hard work, because it definitely, when I got there, it was I was doing, like, I was filing stuff and answering phones. It was definitely like a secondary internship, but it was one of those things where, yeah, I kept asking the questions, and I think people always say, I just kept saying, hey, can I write a review? Can I do this? I had to take my time. I had to learn that patience, but eventually, I got that opportunity and just kind of ran with it.
I don't know if you know, like my first actual story was an interview with Biggie.
Okay. Oh, I know that.
Right around that time when they did the Big Mac thing, and I wasn't a writer. I mean, I did parties. I worked at Video Music Box. I was in videos, but I never I didn't even see myself as a writer. But the funny thing is that being that I went to high school with Mark Pitts, he was managing Biggie, and of course I already knew Puff because of the Bad Boy connection. So my first interview was like probably at the time the biggest artist on Bad Boy, and I've been writing ever since. Like I said, I just happened to come upon it, and Carew Daniels.
Okay.
Carew Daniels that suggested me to the magazine was One Nut with Barry Wade. So he suggested. So when you mentioned the Biggie and the Craig Mack thing, like I said, like that was my entry point, Biggie Smalls. But
I get off on a tangent really quickly. It is, I would just say, crazy those experiences and opportunities. But thinking about the people that we've met and interviewed and where they are now, it's funny. I just happened to see some
Grammy special on night before Alicia Keys was on that. I remember interviewing Alicia pre Songs in A Minor at J Records off when Jay and Clive had just launched Jay. Like just so many of those stories of like, yeah. Again, I joked earlier, like when I tell people like the opportunities and the spaces that I've been fortunate enough to be in, and now I look back and like that is crazy that I was blah 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 or whatever. Just to think about kind of what those moments meant and where we're just kind of like just being in the moment and not thinking again pre-cell phones, like real like camera phones, like you were just there in that moment, really like being able to be part of history is kind of ridiculous.
I think all of us who've been around this long have a story about just being at a certain place and getting an opportunity and running with it because it wasn't on our scorecard, but we made the best of it. So that with that in mind, like leading to where you are today, because like you said, you've had different jobs within the industry. So how are you able to navigate to do different jobs at different spaces that weren't correlated? Because especially in this industry, we have a lot of people like they're publicists for 20 years, or if they're this, that, other. But like you happen to like shift over to something that has nothing to, I shouldn't say has nothing to do, but doesn't correlate directly with actual writing in the sense of what we were writing at that time. How were you able to do that and like get to where you are today?
I would think part necessity.
It's funny. I'll tell one quick story. When I started at SOHH, it was my first digital job, and Felicia Palmer, who I still talk to, and Stephen Samuel, good folks who have been in the digital space. I mean, God, the early forerunners in this space.
And so
I remember I interviewed with Felicia, and she was just like, "It's something about you. You just don't seem to care about this interview." I'm like, "It's."
Back then, again, Frank was. I was like, it's a website.
Like, sure, like I'm looking for a job and this seems interesting, and I know y'all been doing y'all thing, but it's not physical. And I got that gig, I think partly because of that, and also I had this like real desire to still report news where I think we were all that hustle of all hip hop and SOHH and a lot of those like Hip Hop DX, a lot of those sites that were all coming online at that time were really hustling to be first, like that pre-TMZ era. So that was like the foray into digital, and that's when I kind of got obsessed with social media. And like, I think someone else was telling the story recently on a podcast, like the ability to immediately get some news to somebody that was beyond, hey, I printed it, or beyond I wrote it and I hit send. That could hit you, or if you think that, God, you're making me feel and sound old. The fact those 2-way text alerts y'all used to do, the fact that you'd be like, yo, somebody did this. Bing, and it would just hit our phone, hit our 2 ways. I'm like, oh snap! Like that ability to immediately impact someone's day and then impact someone and share news and information was insane to me at the time. I was like, how do you master that to be like, okay, it is not. Then that became, I think, my first time being, oh, this is not just about writing. It's about how do you amplify your brand? How do you amplify your story? How do you market? Which I'd never been in marketing. I was always a creative. And I guess that then pivots to me is when I started a job in marketing. I got married to my wife, who was a publicist, who who was at Vibe and Spin and in the entertainment space for a long time. And I was like, all right, I gotta this music thing, particularly as it came online where, you know, writing for digital became such attrition. It got so crowded. People were like, I'll write for 10 cents a word. And I was like, whoa, like I can't compete with that. I got bills to pay. I don't know. I know those young kids out in, you know, Ohio or wherever. And shout out to a lot of those dudes who built up sites that are amazing and blogs, etc. But I couldn't compete with that, having bills and just being married. So I was like, how do I pivot this? And again, just fortunately talking to people. I was talking to somebody and I was like, I want to be able to still tell stories, but I want to tell stories for a brand. I want to be able to communicate my passion for whatever this is, for a sneaker company or a music label or a TV network. And I had a friend who was like, that's digital marketing. He's like, what you're talking about is digital marketing, which at that point was, you know, again, building websites, selling social media. And I said, oh, okay. So I started talking to folks about what digital marketing looked like, it felt like. And again, through she was at Music Choice and like her name was Joseph, and Joseph was like, hey, there's a digital job over there I think you'd be great for. That was my first digital marketing job. And while I had the digital part, that's where I learned marketing. That's why I learned how you talk to an audience and understand the ROI and understand, you know, I understood unique views and page views and minutes watched and all that stuff, but then really understanding how you market to people and that there is there's a model for marketing and, you know, you want to hit people multiple times with a message in order to get it. All of those things I didn't have. I just knew how to tell a story. I knew how to create text content and great video content. So whether that SOHH or whether it was at Music Choice, I leaned into like, what is the next thing people are trying to do? So we did videos. You know, it's so funny. I talked to Steve and Carl Cherry, who's now at Spotify. Again, another brother doing crazy, amazing things. We were shooting videos early. We shot some crazy viral videos that prior to video being a thing, like not a consistent thing the way it was now. Like they just wanted to push the envelope and try different things, all in the goal of telling a great story that captivated the audience. And whether that's captivating the audience to watch your channel or to read your story, to me, it's all the same thing. So I got into digital, and that just has kind of evolved since then.
So the writing and just being in the industry actually did help, even if you didn't know the technical aspects of it, but just knowing the storytelling and everything that comes along with it helped in a way where it led you to where you are today.
Like if right now my job is much more corporate. It's funny. I was telling somebody what I did recently and they were like, oh, so you're like a corporate dude, like you in sales. I'm like, but I still tell a story. I still tell, you know, that spiel I gave at the top of this interview. I'm still telling you who we are and what it is that we do. And I have a passion for what it is that we do. Now that distribution point is different, but it is still the passion of I am trying to make you feel as passionate as I am about that thing. And that storytelling is what I want to come through. I want to be able to make you understand, if you have not heard of our brand, if you have not heard of our company, why it's important in that 10, 15, 30 minutes I have with you to get you to be invested.
So as the vice president of streaming and partnerships, I know, especially in companies, you'll have a title, you'll have a specific title, but you might be doing 17 different things. Like what is the main thing, or what is it that you set out to do on a daily basis, primarily as you're doing the other 17 things that comes along with the job?
My primary role is to get the Fuse Media brand in as many digital spaces as possible. So whether that's Roku, Amazon Prime Video channels, any of the other streaming services, whether you have a Samsung TV or you have a Vizio TV, all of those places have these free channel marketplaces. Basically, it looks like cable. You turn on your TV and whether it's Samsung TV Plus or Vizio WatchFree or whatever, you turn on your Wi-Fi enabled TV, you'll see a list of channels that look like cable, OG cable. And then so I have a goal to get our 6 channels that we have currently up and running on as many of those platforms as possible. And we've been in that space, which is called free ad supported television, or FAST, as people call it in the industry, has been around probably since 2016, 2017. We got into the space in 2018. And I'll just say, people to be aware of Fuse on the digital space. We went through the
my boss, who was the business officer, was like,
hey, we're getting into streaming. And I think I just been reporting. I had a previous manager who left. I just then directly reported to him, and he's like, we're getting into streaming. I was like, cool. What is that? Like, once you tell me what that is, sure, I will do my best to figure it out. And it was like, that's when we got into it, and we've learned a lot, but it is, yeah. So how do I get you to, again, buy into the vision that the company is selling? A couple years later, we got into the streaming service. So we have a SVOD called Fuse Plus, which is no different than Netflix, Hulu, Amazon, etc. But obviously, we're catered to a very, to a niche audience, to young, diverse audience of, 18 to 34, 18 to 45. Cut it to tell those unique stories. So we work with Big Frida is one of our flagship talent. We have 8 seasons of an unscripted series with her. People know her. Fuse has been a supporter of Frida for years. We have shows like Sex Sells, which features Weezy, who is a well-known podcaster. She's on the Black Effect Network with Horrible Decisions. So really just to get that content in as many places as possible. So that's the streaming side. That partnership side that you mentioned is everything that is not currently making us money. How do we make money? What's the blue sky space? So what is it podcasting? Is it do we get into merch? Do we get into festivals? What do we get into? How do we make this brand, or how do we find other business models, knowing the
and finding other revenue
streams to impact that audience and our advertisers positively? So, every day I'm thinking, I'm on LinkedIn or having conversations with folks like yourself, like, oh, could we do this? Or are you interested in that? So it's funny, you said, how do I use what I've learned in the past? A lot of the folks that I haven't talked to in 5, 10 years, 15 years, now coming back around, like, yes, I used to work at Interactive One. I'm now having conversations with I1 about their fast channels. Like, it is, again, keeping those relationships alive, keeping talking to folks like yourself consistently, even offline, or we see each other in different spaces and connect.
How do we help each other?
I'm going to go to those folks and like, I want to help you. You can help me because I can bring that relationship, which also goes to the part of the other part of my job that I do. So yeah, when our talent relations team is talking to somebody, I'm like, oh, I know blah 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 from Rock Nation. I used to talk to. They used to be an assistant of so and so and so and so. So I do that as well when I can help out, or we have brainstorms about ad branded content and ad sales concept. That's not my remit, but again, we are a small company. Probably 100, 105 folks. So you want to get in where you can to help the company writ large grow.
So that means if there's a leak in the bathroom, you'll be a plumber as well that day, right?
I'll get some putty. Turn off. I know how to turn off the water at the main valve. I gotta do what I gotta do. I may not be able to fix the leak, but at the very minimum, I can turn the water off.
So with all that in mind, like what the funny thing is, I literally, even though I knew about fast channels, the only reason why I found out what fast channel meant was because I was writing a story about 50 Cent with his fast channel in the UK. So that was gonna be one of my questions, like with fast channels, for people that don't know, because some people, they don't know what it is. They just know that they're watching TV or they're watching a particular network. Even with that type of angle, when it comes to fast channels, like, of course, it's free ad-supported streaming TV, which is what fast means. But if you're having a conversation with just a regular person who isn't in the industry, so to speak, but all they know is they have internet and they have streaming, like, how do you explain, or if you have to explain, what fast channel is as opposed to just a streaming channel? Because for us, it's just TV.
And I'm okay with that.
I have tried to explain. I try to explain it all the time to my friends who are not in the industry. One of my best friends is in commercial construction. The other one's in IT. At the end of the day, as long as you're watching it, I don't care what you call it. Honestly, I was like, oh, it's those. I'm like, when you turn on your TV, before you get to whatever, that default thing, there's a little box at default, and sometimes it just launches back into those channels. I'm like, my job is to get those on, but it does. It looks like cable, and I'm as someone who worked in cable, I'm okay with that. It is, as long as you're watching it and you don't have to, the democratization of this content to the point where, all you have to have is Wi-Fi, which is also sort of funny because people are like, oh, I cut the cord. That you still pay for Wi-Fi. Like the companies, and I'm not mad at them because they pay my salary indirectly, whether it's Verizon or Charter or Comcast, whomever. They still have you. You may not have a box and a wire that comes into your house, but you have a box that emits signal that gives you all of that content. So it is the same process. But I'll tell you, it's TV. What I will say is, I think for now, at least this is the experience I've had, unlike, the days where I watch MTV or I watch Fuse or I watch HBO, it's just content, because there's so much of it out there, whether it's Netflix, Hulu, you're turning on that thing you want to watch. Now, yes, you definitely know Netflix and Disney Plus. But when you get to Fast, I don't know many people who are like, oh, I watch this channel. You flip through Fast like you used to flip through cable TV. Oh, snap, I know this movie with, Lawrence Fishburne and so-and-so, and whether it's halfway through the movie or not, you jump in and you enjoy that content, and hopefully you stick around. Or there's channels, they just show one series. So we partner with a bunch of channels that just show, Ice Cube, the Ice Cube movie, Are We There Yet, has a TV series.
Yeah, exactly.
There's one network that we work with. We do their sales that just run, they just run that series, and that's fine. That does what it needs to do in terms of getting eyeballs to watch that content.
Now, just out of curiosity, as I'm sitting here, I've always wondered, how does a Are We There Yet get its own channel, as opposed to one channel having throwbacks, maybe 15 shows, but then you have Anger Management have their own channel. When those decisions are made, I'm pretty sure there's really no science, and I think I'm just asking just to kind of get an idea, because I've just been curious when I'm flipping channels, why does this show that I've never seen before, that I may never watch, but the thing is, the fact that it has its own channel, curiosity will get the best of me, because it's okay, that has to mean to have a library, because if it's a 24-hour channel and it's only this show, there's got to be a reason why people are tuning in for this. So how are decisions made? I mean, you might not be involved directly, but how are decisions made when it comes to having those type of channels, or even throwback channels? I think it's easy, because as long as you have an older audience or even a younger audience, people will always talk about older shows, because they reminisce about certain things. But when it comes to shows that maybe for the last 5 or 10 years that might pick up because of Fast Channel, how are those decisions made, or what goes into deciding what would be a Fast Channel?
For those single
series shows, you're absolutely right. It's library. Now, it's library, and where is that content living otherwise? The fact that there's not, and again, I don't work for NBC, Peacock, Dick Wolf. The fact that there's not a Law and Order channel blows my mind. But I know that Peacock and NBC and Dick Wolf are probably making so much money. I think there is on Peacock exclusively, which is their streaming service. Yeah. But beyond that, they're making so much money. They don't necessarily need to launch a Fast Channel. But now you're talking about more esoteric titles, or titles that aren't in syndication. There's the same reason it's not a Fringe channel or a Seinfeld channel. They're making enough money in syndication and SVOD being on Netflix, etc., that you might cannibalize it by putting on a platform like Fast, where you don't necessarily make the same revenue. That's my opinion. I wish I had a Seinfeld or a Friends in our back pocket to be like, boom. But for those other shows, you have a library, and that library is not exposed anywhere else, and it's not making you early on. Again, I talk about the evolution of this platform of free exported television. Early on, we all threw stuff against the wall. Our very first channel, which is now called Backstage, we called the Fuse XL, and we literally took our entire library and just let's see what works. And we have evolved that now, where it is much more thoughtful. We program it like you program a TV network. We have day parting. Okay, this is prime time. This is the show that's going to perform best in prime time, overnights, etc. For those single series channels, if you have a Baywatch, again, you start that on episode 101, let it rock. If you don't, if you are curating a channel like we have done, or like you said, 50 Cent Action, which is, I would say, the next evolution, the next is that you curate a channel. Okay, what is a specific audience? So our Backstage channel is behind the scenes, your favorite celebrities, artists. So it's biopics, it's kind of behind the scenes documentaries and 1 hour things featuring talking heads. It's celebrity drama. Our Shades of Black channel is our African American movie and TV channel. So it's, what kind of stories are we telling for that audience? So you have that, but that next iteration is what you're seeing now with 50 Cent Action is, okay, yes, it is an action movie channel. Boom.
This is all the things, 50 loves these movies. Sure, he'll be in some of them. It may not be in some of them, but he's
curating that channel. It's no different than when young man started the Revolt Network. You're putting your stamp, your seal of approval on that platform. We're talking about that. We've done that with a Latino director, Robert Rodriguez, who did From Dusk Till Dawn and Desperado. He has a channel on our platform called El Rey Rebel. And that is his brand. El Rey is his production company, but we took his vision of action movies and Latino-focused action movies, and we expanded upon that universe. So it is, what is the story you tell? Because as this fast platform gets more and more competitive, as the major studios now come in and say, oh, we can make money off of this. Here, I have 1,000 episodes, like you said, a show not everyone knows, but some people might know, or you said anger management. Whether you know anger management or not, you stop because you see Charlie Sheen's face. You might think it's 2.5 Men, but you stop. You start laughing. You could easily go an hour and a half because it is a sitcom. It is a thing that is very familiar to you. It's a formulaic. You get it. You're in, and now you're just. In some of it's the way people used to consume radio. It's background. And people who watch it, I'm taking care of the kids, I'm working, I'm whatever, it's background noise. And you'll too, but you're not fully immersed in it like you are like, oh, I'm gonna go sit down and watch the new episode of whatever very viral show where you want to be fully engaged in that content.
And it's funny because that's how I got to see anger management the same exact way, because it's like, I knew he got fired from, 2.5 Men and all this other thing. Didn't care about, what he did after that. But then I'm seeing an anger management channel and I see him and I'm like, well, let me check it out. Now it's like I watch it every day now because like you said, I got hooked basically because it was its own channel, Damn, I just lost what Now, for people that are actually wanting to either transition into another aspect of the industry, being that you've been a writer, you've worked in music, and now you work with streaming/TV, what advice would you give someone to actually be able to, flip whatever they're working with, regardless of what it is, in order to pursue something and be, because you've been successful everywhere you've worked at, and as I stated, well, at least from my viewpoint,
yeah, appreciate you, yeah.
So like, what advice would you give or suggestion would you give to someone that is like, I'm getting sick of doing this writing thing, and I think I want to get into acting, or I think I just want to be behind the scenes. Like, what advice would you give them based on what you've done and how you've dealt with your transitions?
Find that through line. What is the thing that connects what you're doing to what you want to do? Because if you
find that through line, that allows you to say, you got how much doing the transferable
stuff. I have been fortunate, but yeah, there's definitely some jobs. I could list off a few jobs that I've interviewed for. Now, I try to find that through line. I was like, oh yeah, this corporate, I want to tell the story of brand, blah, 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 and why your product is so amazing. And it, sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. But you find that through line to be able to tell your story, because I think, and I say this, and some people love it, some people hate it, you have to look at yourself as a brand. I think, very early in my career, I was very much like whatever company I worked at, I wore it on my sleeve. Oh, Billboard and I are this. MTV News and I are this. The Source and I are this. That's when I learned that was not quite that, but it's like, yeah, you are not that company that at any point, it is a business decision. That company can lay you off, that company can fire you, you can leave, and all of that is okay. That is part of the learning. It is how do you prepare yourself for that next step? And like, yeah, that company they're not your family. They don't owe you anything, and vice versa. Like you're paid for a job and do that. So then the other point is, again, what we've done for years and what many of the folks that we still keep in touch with do is keep. So, whether it's LinkedIn or just talking to friends or talking to people you know, and they may not be friends, they just might be acquaintances or business colleagues, and say, hey, if you know anybody and blah, blah, blah. And again, that has to be a give and take. That same way, if they come to you, you have to be able to share in your resources that same way. So absolutely, anytime somebody hits me up on LinkedIn, again,
I will mess them. I'll be like, hey, what are you looking to do? I'm going to ask certain questions. And
I'm not going to waste your time and anyone else's time, but I'm going to say, oh, you're looking to do this? You should talk to that person. Or do you have these, depending on how well I know them, do you have these 2-3 things? You don't have let's say you want to be a photographer. A portfolio. I'm not going to hand you off to my friend who is a photo editor at such and such magazine. Now you got to get your portfolio together. Yeah. I'll tell you what portfolios you look at. Here's some other photographers in the music space, whatever. But I'm not going to say, oh, let me talk to my good homie Rayon Richards and da da da. He's dope. If you have a portfolio, because now you're wasting that person's time. That makes me look bad. You have to do the necessary steps. But if you are in that position where like, oh, here's what I want to do. I get the vision. And I think it makes sense. But no matter what, I'm gonna give you. My goal is to give you something you can take away. And again, whether or not it is that next step that you want. And I always tell people, I can't guarantee anything. I can make a connection, and I hope the best. And I've had the same thing. Yeah, people have connected with folks, and it's worked out. It's not worked out. But even those folks where it doesn't work out, I can still, there are times where I would go back to them and say, hey, I may now have an opportunity. I know I didn't get this job with you, but now I'm somewhere else and I have an opportunity. Is there an opportunity for us to work together? And you also have to have a bit of a tough exterior that none of this is personal. I think that's the other thing I learned. I had to learn a few times the hard way. Like, none of this is, well, you get laid off or whatever. It's a business decision. Even if you think it's personal, even if you and that person didn't get along.
I'm laughing because I'm not going to mention any names, but I remember you telling me about somebody that you and I both worked with at a company I went to after you were there.
I'm so pissed about. There's certain people I still have grudges against. Oh, don't get me wrong. I'm human, but I have to often remember. But again, ironically, a lot of those opportunities, I have like 4 people in my life who are on that list. But all those things set me up for something. It's so random, and I don't. Again, I'm a spiritual person. I'm not gonna say it's fate, whatever. All of those things set me up for something else. I would just tell you quickly at Music Choice, I got laid off from Music Choice. When I got laid off from Music Choice, I was done with music. I don't think I had seen you. That's been a while. I was like, I'm done. I'm out. I was at Chase doing UX. I was writing website code. And here's how they hired a bunch of music writers and other journalists to be like, make our website seem more consumer friendly. Cool. In by 9, out by 4. Wasn't thinking about going back in entertainment. And again, somebody I work with at Music Choice, who's now at Vivo, was like, hey, there's this gig over here. I think you'd be dope for it. I'm like, I'm not trying to get back in entertainment. I'm not trying to get back in TV. She's like, nah, just come interview. And I was like, and I came in, I interviewed. I heard things from my now boss. He told me then, he's like, digital is the future. And I was like, okay, I've never been at a TV network. They said digital is the future. Okay. So they clearly understand that TV as it currently stands, or pay TV wasn't going to be able to work. I still wasn't sold. So it I came hard about it. And I came back with something. And they made me another offer. And I was like, all right. There must be a reason that this is coming back around to me. So I took that chance. But yeah, I could have regretted it. But you got to make those decisions. Yeah, that fate, that moment, that you got to see the opportunity and decide whether it's for you or not. There've been times where I was like, oh no, this opportunity is not for me, and I could have been wrong. There's one recently. I could have been very wrong. But I was like, nah, I'm not even applying that because that opportunity don't sit right with me long term.
No, but you're absolutely right. I'm glad you said that because I always say to people that how I learned from other people's mistakes as well. And I'm not. I'm not gonna lie, I'm freelancing back at Black Enterprise. It's my third time working with them. The second time I left, I was like, I'm done. There's no way I will ever even read Black Enterprise, let alone work for them. And then somebody from Interactive One, Justin, happened to go there. And next thing you know, I'm back at Black Enterprise. And this time's the longest I've been there. And I'm still shocked because I'm like, and I said to him, 3 strikes, you're out, or third time's the charm. So I'm like, but like you said, sometimes in the back of your mind, if you say you're not going to do something, or there's a situation where, like, I would say that in my situations, and the reason why I brought up the bad aspects is because for 7 years I wasn't working, and a lot of people didn't know that because I didn't brag when I had money, and it was money to me, but not to people like you. But anyway, I wasn't bragging when I had.
You got a full head of hair still, man. That money must be coming.
Right? But at the same time, because when people found out after the fact, they're like, well, this, that, and the other. One thing I found out was when you're down, nobody wants to deal with you. It's like you emit certain odors to let people know that you need something. Because when you don't need anything, everybody's offering you things. And I would tell people, like, especially with the network I had, I couldn't even get a phone call, let alone a meeting or anything. And I'm glad I went through that because everyone thinks that in every success story that they've always been successful. And I try to tell people that you need to use your failures as a reason to become successful because it worked for me. And I still have a long way to go as far as what I deem successful for myself. But at the same time, I'm still involved in the industry that throws you, spits you, kicks you, does everything to you. Is like, are you ready? You're still not ready, and it's still, beat up on you. So, but I think that it's.
You mentioned the stench. I don't mean to cut you off. You mentioned. I don't think it's a stench. I think it's this is a industry that is very much about reciprocity. What can you do for me right now? And when you are in a position where you could do something, those VPs and those other people you've been dealing with, you can. Oh, you're at blah blah blah. We got it. Now when you know that, hey, I'm no longer here, hey, just wondering if you ever knew. Wow, I'm really busy right now. Let me call you back in 2035. So but I also, again, I get it. And I try not to be that. And that person we worked with before, I will say I also took something from them where it's like how the manager I don't want to be. And to this day, I try to be a very hands-off manager. I don't, and my team knows I've said this to the people who work for me now. I don't love managing. I want you to be able to go do your thing. I like creating. I like working. And I've been fortunate that I've gotten to a point where I'm managing people. But I want those people to succeed. I want you to win. I'm going to tell you, hey, this is what I need your help with, and here's what I want you to lead. But
you're not my minion. You're not my what. We are all a team. I said when I started here, that the team inherited.
I don't see myself as a coach. I see myself, because I love football, I see myself as a quarterback. You're a wide receiver. You're a running back. You're a tight end. Hopefully everyone in the room understood football. But my goal is for us all to score, but we all can win. So, I will say I learned that from those experiences. Like, that person or other people could have gotten so much more out of their teams. Yeah, exactly. It wasn't just me. Like they were whole teams of people. You would just commiserate about that person. We would go to happy hours and just talk shit because they had created such a toxic environment that on the one hand it was so toxic, but on the other hand it banded the rest of the company or the department together in a very odd way that, again, not even thought about it that way, but I probably thank that person for their connections and friendships that I still have because we all had such tough times working in those spaces.
Had a common enemy, so to speak, but
we banded together.
But and when I speak to people, I always say to people, like, I want more people to know about my failures and my successes, because then they'll see that whatever they're going through, they can still bounce back. Because I think what I went through, like, definitely lesser people wouldn't have even gotten up. And so I pride my parents in teaching me how to stay focused on winning, even when you're quote unquote losing. And I think that it's important. Even when you said, like I said, even when you gave me advice about, that person, I'm glad you told me that because I wouldn't have expected that. So the minute that the turn came, I was like, this is what he was talking about. So I was kind of prepared for it. And,
I will just say, I'm not even going to say, okay, there were a couple people, you were not the only person. I had 3 or 4 people who at different times, like, oh, I'm going here. I was like, okay. Literally, I thought, okay, here's my experience. Again, my experience does not have to die. I've had times people like, oh, no, that wasn't my experience. I was like, I love that for you. Dope. But I know what my experience was, and I'm not gonna lie to you. Especially if you come to me and say, "Hey, I know you work with so and so," I'm gonna tell you the truth, but I'm also tell you that's my experience. Yeah. And I think what you just also said about failure, yeah, there's definitely been, you're going, oh, I've been successful. There's definitely been gaps in my resume as well. There've been a year or so where I've, again, luckily because I write, I could freelance in between. But there've been gaps where I was not at a corporate, and I'm a corporate guy. I need the corporate. I need the benefits. I need the 401k. I need to know somebody else's pay. I'm not an entrepreneur. So to that point, that there were those gaps where I'm like, oh no, you gotta hustle to eat. But to your point, my mother, raised by a single mother, my mom was always like, no, you just keep going. So I never had that like, oh man, I gotta give up. It was like, no, you get up the next morning, you keep hitting. And I guess there was definitely, as you said, there definitely days where you're like, damn, like, how can it be this? All these people I know, like you said, going back to that party, right? We was in limos. I was out on red carpets. I used to have the corporate car. I was partying with so and so.
Exactly.
Yeah, that is the humbling thing. That is that balance where, again, I guess that fortunate part. I know people all the time. I'm sure you get the people you talk to who are not in the engineering. Like, oh my god, like it must be. Yeah, it's great on some days, but it's also awful. Like any other job, like it is what it is. Like you enjoy it. Yes, you definitely have some highs and some amazing experiences. But yeah, I don't. Again, and I both say this: we're not curing cancer. We're not saving babies.
Yeah.
So like it's how you take it.
Yep. Now I do appreciate your time, and like even though I got like 19 different bullet points to touch. But what I want to ask you is, because I know that I'm not going to say for whatever reason, but I'm bringing it up this time because typically whenever I have conversations with like the past like 7 people I talk to, mental health always comes up. And the reason why I'm asking you where I'm brought you on that is because as we're older, of course, we've been through so much. So during your times of whatever it is you're going through, how are you or were you able to stay? And the thing is, you may not have stayed at a point where everything was good, but how are you able to function to a point where it didn't bring you down? Because a lot of people, when they hit that wall and they either stay there or they'll retreat and never go back. I don't see you as the type as going back, even if you're stuck for a minute. But like, how have you been able to, if you've been able to? Because like I said, I can't just assume because you're 73 that you've gone through. Now let me stop. But how have you been able to get through whatever you needed to get through in order to? I don't want to say stay sane because I don't think people would describe me as sane. But how are you able to function? That's a better word. Function, knowing that you've been through what you've been through, and you're still able to do what you do.
Yeah,
not to get too serious. No. I appreciate that. That's real. As the kids, that's real talk. I will say, not to get too somber, but as I mentioned, I was a parent of a single mother. My father passed when I was 12, and I've had some other losses in my life. So I think, depending on who you ask, for better or worse, I don't take much seriously. I kind of just like life is like if it's not life or death, you'll be all right. And I may not be the best way to cope, but I'm very much again you can't stop. I'm like, all right, I'm still here, so I got to figure it out. Growing up, my mother would be like, yo, my mother was a teacher. She was like, unless you're sick, you're going to school. Like, yeah, if you're vomiting and you got, but don't tell me you got a stomach ache and I don't see any signs of you just don't want to go to school. Nah, you going. So I went. You toughed it out. You figured it out. Yeah. And that's kind of even to this day. Like I don't think I've never. It sounds so. I don't know what the term is. It sounds kind of crazy, but quitting has never been a thing. I thought, no, I'm gonna do something. I gotta bring in money. I gotta live my life. I have goals and responsibilities, and I have to keep doing that. The other thing is, I would say, you know, I have a tight circle of friends. And again, you know, where I'm gonna make a stereotype. Typically, men are not the most emotive or talkative or share their feelings. But you know, if that is my safe space to just shoot the shit, just to do some dumb, just to talk about something dumb, whether it's sports or whatever, or just to be lighthearted and have a way to get out of the frustrations of the day. You know, and to be 100% with you, yeah, I'm in therapy currently. Like that was one of those things again for me personally, like. You know, the breaking generational curses. You know, I know a lot of folks in my family that I wish had done that or had the opportunity or, you know, to do it. But it is something where, and everyone's is different, however you get it, like, you know, that allows you to, as, you know, someone who is fairly private for the most part, to be like, okay, this is a person I can trust and talk to. And here's what I'm thinking. Am I crazy? And again, they're an objective source. Yes, we have family or friends. I have my wife who we bounce ideas off of each other and share frustrations. But, you know, sometimes you just need a third party who doesn't know all of the other things or have a POV because they're your friend, your whatever. There's somebody who is, okay, but why? You know, to challenge you from an objective standpoint.
Yeah, and the only reason why, like I said, I brought this because I know that there are people watching. There might be one person watching that, because everyone always seems to have it together. If you're labeled successful or you're labeled doing well, and I think that with like I said, the most recent conversations I've had on camera and off camera, there have been people that's like, yo, when I do this, that, and of course I never expected, because when I tell people that I went through them, they're like, you're always smiling, you always, it's like, yeah, but I think that it's important for, you know, people, especially Black men, to see that we can kind of break down and still bounce back without feeling like we're either soft, the punk, or that, you know, whatever stereotypes that we've been labeled over the years. If we show any emotion, and what people don't realize is anger is emotion too, and we seem to show that well. So it's like that's all we're allowed to showcase. And like I said, I just asked that because I think that it is a good thing for people to realize that, you know, you can be. But I don't want to bring the mood down, but like I said, it just crossed my mind because
no, that's it. No, it's really important. It's something that, you know, again, even, you know, we're both Gen X. That's the thing that I will say I appreciate about, you know, younger generations. They're comfortable. Many of the people that I work with of all genders and ethnicities are more comfortable in like, oh no, I need to do this for me. I need to take time. And sometimes my gut reaction is, what you mean? Like, you got to hustle. We got to go. But if you need to take that day off, I can't. It's your day. I can't be mad at you, but I also can't think that you work the way I work. Yes, I've had to, because of that hustle mentality, because that you keep going. I've had to do the opposite thing in terms of taking up space for my personal self and for my relationship, to say, when I'm on vacation, I'm legit on vacation.
Yeah.
I still look at emails, but I don't answer any unless it's a fire alarm. Or I say, if there is something absolutely on fire as it relates to our job, text me. But that's taken me 5 years in this role. I think up in my last 2 years in here. But yeah, I used to always be, my wife, both of us used to be on email, like at the pool, laptops in hand. But that's not vacation. That's not truly disconnecting. And the job will be there. Like, again, not curing cancer. The job will be there when you get back. And if it's not, then that sucks. Trust me, I understand. But long term, you know, the next one will come. You know, you'll get another job. You'll get another opportunity if it's meant.
But at the same time, if they decide to get rid of you, it's not going to matter either way. So you might as well enjoy the time that you have when you're away from work. So, I want to know what you do outside of Fuse, because I know that you know, as I saw in an article written about you, you're a recovering music critic. So if you're a recovering music critic, you know, how do you get your therapy, so to speak, when it comes to your old music life, your old critic life?
I had not been there. It's just within the last, I'd say, year or so, I've been able to truly enjoy just being a music fan. you know, what I found a couple years ago, 5 or 6 years ago, I was traveling a lot for a previous job and was, you know, we would go into we would go in festivals in Nashville and Vegas, and you know, you end up, you get into town, you're in a hotel. Sometimes, you know, you don't want to, hey, we're gonna do the team dinner. Nah, sometimes I'd rather go to the hotel restaurant, sit at the bar and have whatever, have dinner, have a drink, chill, watch whatever game is on. And I found myself talking to bartenders, and just every time you're in a bar, you know, oh, the bartender, like, you want to know what's good in town, or what, you know, what do the locals think? And I found that bartenders always had these really interesting stories, not only about the towns that they lived in, but more so who they were. And no one, to this day, I always make this comment. One day somebody's going to check me and say, no, I did. I've never met a person who's like, when I grow up, I want to be a bartender. Like, look, these amazing artists, musicians, actors, physicists, whatever, people of all walks of life get into bartending and mixology. So I just developed a passion for talking to those people, and then by proxy, their cocktails and spirits, whiskeys, wine, etc. And my father and his uncles owned a bar in Newark for 40 years. It closed during the pandemic, but it was a dive bar in Newark, and my father was but there was a community there. Again, there was a camaraderie of like community that when you went into that bar, any bar that I've ever experienced, no matter what your political creed, color, I've had drinks with people who opposites. But when you sit down and you're just having that drink, a lot of that stuff goes away. Now, and again, for me, I'm also like, I'm not gonna talk about a lot of that stuff, but there is I've met several people of all walks of life who I've had the pleasure of going to Scotland and you know, all we are all human. We all believe the same. We all have the same trials and tribulations, no matter what our religious beliefs, political beliefs, etc. So, yes, I found this passion kind of not written for several years. I just started kind of writing about those experiences. Started on social media like most people do. Had a couple friends who started a site called The Whiskey Lifestyle, so I started working with them, just kind of freelancing, being like, hey, I just want to creatively write. I don't get paid for this. It is just a passion project, and yeah, I've gotten it's weird now. People are like, oh, you're like a whiskey nerd. I'm like, oh, no, you're a whiskey influencer. I'm not an influencer at all. I don't. I'm a creator. I feel like, again, that's that thing. I just like creating. I told somebody the other day, I don't really care if anyone ever reads or hits a like on my story. I want to put it out there because I enjoyed it, and I find that the story of these 5 generations of whiskey makers in the Highlands of Scotland, or this rock band that loved the whiskey and they one day decided to do a whiskey brand, yada yada. All those stories are interesting to me. Or this, again, physicist who was like, oh, I like making cocktails, and took their physics mind and put it toward making cocktails. Those are weird. Not weird. Those are very interesting, and weird in a good way. Those are very interesting stories that I don't see anywhere else. So if I think it's interesting, I want to share it. So however I get to share those things, that's kind of been my passion. Beyond that, man, I'm a Marvel movies nerd. I think that's the other thing, to a much less extent. I'm definitely not a Marvel content creator. But that's how I spend most of my time, is like, what is that story? Yeah, I just can't not tell a story. So whether it's, what is that story? What is that experience? I think we ran into each other a couple months back at a Remy event. Remy?
Yeah.
Yes. I think it was the DJ Cassidy thing.
Yeah.
So
Center, yeah.
Exactly. And I'm like, we were at a spirit thing, but because of that connection of spirits and music, which is the other thing, alcohol and music have always gone together. So like there's a through line there again that is like, oh, I understand this world. And those bartenders, those people who make the spirit, whether it's a blender, a distiller, etc., they're just like art. They're no different than artists, whether it's a songwriter or a musician. They have a passion for what they do. And hearing them talk about that passion, again, is the same vibe I used to get when I talked with artists about their album and their music.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate your time and the conversation. because we can literally go for like another 2 hours and still, you know.
Long-winded. I'm like, damn, I forget how long-winded I can be because I don't normally talk. But yeah, no, I appreciate this, man. This is a good time. Again, honored to be on. Like I said, I know a lot of good folks who I have respected and followed, and you know, seen as mentors far and near have been on the show. So honored to be a part.
I'm trying to save the good ones for later, but then I can't because no. That's why it took me long to
get the show rolling, right? You gotta get that library going for your fast channel. That's what it is. You're trying to get that $100, $200 of content so you can just roll up that fast channel. I get it. So I'm just throw me on the pod, man. Just throw me.
So that way I can have my fast channel on Fuse Media. my friends are yours curated fast channel.
Okay, as long as you got your clearance, as long as you're worldwide rights, we could definitely do that.
Hey. Is there any way if anyone's trying to get in contact with you or wants to ask you any questions, any social media or anything, if you want to, because some people are like, I don't want anybody bothering me. But
I would say LinkedIn is the best way. If you're talking something professional, LinkedIn is the best way to find me. On the off chance you're interested in my crazy whiskey and cocktail pursuits, it's at Bar Time Stories. So if you think bedtime stories, but you put bar instead of bed, that's all my spirit stuff. Again, I will give compliments to my wife, who is far more brilliant than I am, who came up with that name for my Instagram handle. So yeah, did a podcast a while back that may or may not bring back if I have the time, or like just corporate life is way too busy. But yeah, at Rashuan Hall on LinkedIn is a primary. Happy to talk to anybody about fast streaming. Don't always have all the answers, but at the very least, I can point you in the right direction. But yeah.
You might be surprised. You get a couple of whiskey connoisseurs like reaching out to you, so you never know.
A whiskey group, man. We have a couple of good ones in Jersey. I have a couple of homies who do stuff in Jersey, and a couple of homies in the city. So it is. That's one of those spaces. Again, talking about just seeing us in a space that is different. Seeing brothers and sisters get together over whiskey. There's some amazing, we can definitely talk online. There's some amazing folks who are doing stuff in that space where you don't think people stereotypically think it's an old white man's drink. That's not the case at all. There's a lot of great diversity in that space still.
Actually, I was about to say kind of like the same thing, but on a different level, because coming up, like my parents from the South, so I'm used to the older black men, whiskey drinkers. Because when I started drinking like 2 months ago, it's vodka or Hennessy, but it's like I've noticed within maybe the past 6 years or so, like probably before pre-pandemic, there have been a rush of, from my observation, of black people that drink whiskey, even women, which surprised me because, like I said, coming up, outside of malt liquor, it was either vodka, rum, it was anything but whiskey. But I've noticed that recently.
Yeah, whiskey definitely has had a renaissance in the last 10 years. Yeah, don't get me started, because again, we could go another hour. But I will say, but you just say Hennessy. What I will say, and I know I'm not the authority on it. There is I used to always think was stereotypical, the correlation of black people and Hennessy, but there's an amazing background and history of why Hennessy is so important to the black community. In some part, it has to do with black GIs in World War II and being in France and getting treated far better there, as well as like experiencing this new spirit that they've never had. But I think again, just goes to show like there are so many interesting correlations between
there's so many pros and negatives go beyond what we think. Those so many interwoven stories of our culture that people don't necessarily come to unless they have
the opportunity to do so.
Cool. Okay, thanks once again for your time, and definitely enjoyed the conversation. And for everyone that's stayed to the end, my friends are better than yours. And as I always state, if you think you have better friends than me, one of two things: either they're already my friends, or show them to me, and I'll prove you wrong. Until the next time, Rashuan Hall. Thank you once again, Fuse Media, Whiskey Head, recovering music critic, and and please tell your wife I said hello. And until next time, I want to, what I want to start doing, in the future, I want to start doing panels on specific topics, and I think I would want to do something when it comes to whiskey. I really do, because I had another conversation with somebody, so I'll figure it out, and I'll definitely get back in contact with you, because I know scheduling is always a thing. So it's like,
yeah, let's do it.
Yeah. I know some folks. I'm happy to make some recommendations.
Yeah, definitely. So like I said, we'll talk about that, and then until then, enjoy any and everything you're doing for the summer, because it's like 174 degrees outside as we speak, and we're going through a heat wave. So I'm not leaving. In fact, I might not even leave the seat until the temperature gets lower than 80 degrees. But until then, everybody, BIGCED Industry Code Sign, my friends are better than yours. Until the next time, thanks for tuning in, and thank you, sir.
Very professional.
Very professional. I like the logo, the